Live mode is best for recording images from a tripod, especially macro shots. Press AF Drive and turn the main dial to select AF Live. For this autofocus mode, the camera does not engage the reflex mirror. Instead, the camera focuses by finding the edges between two contrasting colors. The greater the contrast between the pixels, the more accurate the focus. The camera focuses on the subject behind the large AF box. Use the multi-controller to move the focus box to your subject. Press AF on. If the camera achieves focus, the focus point will turn green. If it cannot focus, it will turn red. The final AF mode option is live face detection. This will help you take portraits and group photos in live view. When the camera detects a face in the frame, a special framing box will appear over the face. For a group photo, the camera will display a box with arrows over just one face. Use the multi-controller to move your frame over your main subject to focus. The live view screen is bordered with icons for the current camera settings. You have already seen most of these icons in the control panel or in the viewfinder. Press Info to display new information screens. While the live view screen is active, you can make setting changes on screen, just as you did in regular shooting. For example, press ISO and turn the main dial. The ISO settings will appear superimposed over the live view image. Another screen option is a framing grid. Get into the Setup menu, select Live View Movie Function Settings, and turn on the grid display. This will help you frame up subjects with architectural elements. Use the grid to line up the horizon or building edges. Finally, you may want to check the image focus before you take a shot. This camera allows you to zoom in up to 10 times in live view mode. Press Magnify once or twice to zoom in. When you press Magnify a third time, the image will return to full screen view. Before you can begin recording video, you need to return to the Setup menu and select Stills and Movie from the Live View function settings. Next, select Movie Display as the screen setting. In this format, the live view image will appear in either standard or letterbox format, depending on the movie recording size. The default movie recording size is 640 by 480, which is similar to the standard definition video you see in DVDs. The camera can also make high definition videos. Now, you are ready to record your movie. Press Live View, then press Set to begin shooting your movie. This camera can record 4 GB clips of good quality video. In fact, the video you're watching right now was shot with the 5D. If you are shooting in HD, the camera can record up to 12 minutes of video in one shot. Videos taken in standard mode can run twice as long. End your recording by pressing Set again. Then press Live View to return to the regular shooting mode. To play back your video, press Playback, then Set to bring up the movie controls. Press Set to play or use the quick control dial to select another playback option. The main dial controls the volume. We mentioned earlier that you cannot take live view photos in Auto or Creative Auto, but there is a workaround. This camera allows you to take stills while it records a movie, which you can do in Auto. Turn the camera to Auto and access the Live View Movie Function settings. Enable movie recording. Now, turn on Live View and press Set to begin recording. Press the shutter release and record a still image. The camera will not end the video. Instead, it will pause recording for 1 second while you take the still shot and then resume shooting the video. As photographers, our goal is to convey our personal outlook and view of the world in the form of photographs. Good photographic composition can help you express your visual ideas. Following the guidelines of composition won't guarantee award-winning photos, but I can promise you this: your shooting will improve. I'm not asking you to memorize these rules and follow them by rote. Good photographers sometimes break the rules, but they know why, and they do it for a reason. You probably have a friend or a relative who always seems to have a stack of vacation or holiday snapshots. In every batch, there may be 1 or 2 interesting shots. but the rest are pretty boring. Most people simply don't know how to make their photos interesting. They don't know how to arrange their subjects and backgrounds in an appealing way. That's what we're going to discuss now. The principles of good composition can be learned. As you look at a potential shot through the viewfinder, move the camera around to find the best image. Also, zoom with your feet. Moving a short distance can sometimes make all the difference. Here's a concept that will help you find the best arrangement of elements. It is called the rule of thirds and has been used by artists for hundreds of years. Divide the horizontal plane and the vertical plane into thirds. The intersections of these lines are the best places to locate important subjects. If you have a subject with prominent lines or edges, such as a building or a seascape, place them along the rule of thirds lines. A few words about horizons. Never allow the horizon to cross the image plane exactly in the middle. If you want to feature a subject that lies above the horizon, such as a beautiful sunset, place the horizon lower than the center line. If your main area of interest is below the horizon, arrange the shot so that the horizon is higher than the center line. Teach yourself to visualize thirds when you're looking at photographs and artwork. You will notice that professional photographers use this concept all the time. You will see the rule of thirds in television commercials, movies, and documentaries. A problem with so many snapshots is that the people are so tiny you can hardly tell who they are. The photographer has tried to cram a lot of information about who and where into one photograph. It doesn't work. The solution is to get specific with your framing. Fill up the viewfinder with the important stuff, the people, and enough of the surrounding details to identify the location. Then take additional photos to explore the place, the view, the architecture, the food. A photograph, like a painting or a drawing, is a two-dimensional object. The big issue facing photographers is this: how do you depict the three-dimensional world on two-dimensional paper? How do you avoid a flat look to your photos? There are things you can do to help the viewer see the third dimension. Rule number 1. You must understand the technical aspects of focusing your camera. Focus is the most important component of making a good photograph. The sharp edges and the clarity of the focused subject engage the eye of the viewer. To make your area of sharp focus more forceful, contrast it against an area of softer focus. To control the line between sharp and soft focus, you must understand depth of field and put it to work in your images. The contrast of a sharply focused subject against a soft background will greatly intensify the illusion of three dimensions. A few more tips that add depth. If possible, take advantage of overlapping objects. Overlaps show that one object is in front of another object in space. Use this trick to give your photographs the feeling of space and depth in the real world. Elements of perspective can be used to enhance the third dimension. Things like a line of telephone poles going away from you, or a row of arches in a building, or a road winding off into the distance. Buildings can be a great source of perspective clues. Look what happens with walls and roof lines as they rise up and away from you. These are all indications that the scene has space and depth. We have talked about a number of things that you can do to improve your photographs through composition. We talked about the rule of thirds, which will help you place your subject in the photographic plane. We've talked about sharp and soft focus and discussed ways to create depth and space. We have only begun to touch on the subject of photographic composition. If you'd like to find out more, complete books on the subject are available. Use these guidelines and you'll be thinking about photographs in a new way. We have reached the point in this presentation where we will launch into more advanced topics. The majority of the settings we will discuss cannot be changed in the full auto or creative auto modes, but the concepts such as white balance, metering, and focus are important to understand, no matter which shooting mode you choose. Keep your camera and remote at hand and try out each setting before proceeding to the next topic. White balance is a topic that can either be very simple or a little more involved, based on your needs as a photographer. Happily, the camera gives you white balance settings that work well under a variety of conditions. First, a short explanation of color temperature. When we shoot photographs, we can have a variety of light sources, each with its own characteristics. Color temperature refers to the spectrum of visible light illuminating an object. We measure the light spectrum in what is called Kelvin temperature. The physics behind Kelvin calculations can be tricky, so just think of it this way. Each color corresponds to a specific Kelvin temperature. You would get just about the same color if you heated carbon to the same temperature on the Celsius scale. For example, carbon glows red at 2000 degrees centigrade, but when it's heated to 5500 degrees, it's white hot. In the same way, the white light of the noonday sun measures about 5200 degrees Kelvin. At that time of day, the Earth's atmosphere has allowed the entire visible spectrum of light to pass through and illuminate our world. An hour after sunrise, or an hour before sunset, the curvature of the Earth and atmosphere restricts the amount of light that can reach us. When the sun is low above the horizon, the atmosphere scatters short wavelength colors, such as blue and violet. But long wavelength colors, such as red and yellow, come to us through the atmosphere, creating a more golden colored light. In this case, the color temperature is lower, about 2900 degrees. We've all seen the red sunset, or the golden light that is so beautiful an hour before the sun goes down. The light given off by incandescent bulbs is similar to this light. In contrast, candlelight is very red, with a very low color temperature. Think of how your friends look sitting in front of a fireplace. Firelight is about 1900 degrees Kelvin. We're not talking about the intensity of the light, but rather the composition of the light spectrum. Most of the time, we want to represent the true color of something. We want the people in our pictures to have natural skin tones. This camera has many settings for white balance. Each is designed to compensate for a specific light source. Let's look at auto white balance first. In this setting, the camera meters the light coming through the lens and compensates for the color temperature being recorded. Auto white balance causes the exposure to appear as if it was made under natural sunlight. In cloudy daylight conditions, the clouds actually block out some of the longer waves, resulting in a color temperature higher or bluer than bright sunlight. Shady conditions usually have a higher color temperature, about 8000 degrees. Auto white balance filters out the blue, shifting the colors back toward the red and yellow range. If you are shooting indoors under incandescent light or firelight, the auto white balance shifts the camera settings back toward the blue range. This shift results in skin tones that look natural. If you want this natural sunlight look, the auto white balance setting does a remarkable job. For many photographers, this is a setting that never gets changed. But you can use the optional white balance values like fluorescent or daylight to create better photographs before you